Hey everyone, this is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Redditor BookCast episode 5. And I'm here with Mrs. Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing wonderful.
Good to hear. So yeah, as usual, we're going to run through a major news topic, and then we're going to talk about what we've been reading, and we're going to be talking about what we're reading next month. So the news story we wanted to discuss this week is about men adopting ambiguous pen names to sell psychological thrillers to women. So I mean, the media has, they've been writing about this lately, and because it's become a big deal because men are writing, how titles like Gone Girl and Girl on the Train have become popular. Any novel that has girl in the title has become popular. Well, apparently men are coming up with pen names to write those types of psychological thrillers and mysteries, and they're basically trying to market their novels towards women. So I guess some people feel like this is an issue, but I mean, this is something that's happened in publishing for years. Like, everyone has a pen name, and people tend to use ambiguous pen names because it helps them sell, it helps them sell in different genres. If it's, say, my name is Gary Swaby and I have like a series of novels that's in crime fiction, but then I feel like I want to write something that's, women's fantasy or something like that, I could then, do something and call myself Georgina or something like that, and start selling a different series in a different genre. So, I mean, this is a tactic that's always happened, so it shouldn't really be an issue. But Dana, I wanted to ask you specifically what you feel about, authors who kind of change their pen names to sell in a different genre and target their books at a specific gender or race of people. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have much experience? Have you read anything like that before?
Yes. Basically, I will say this. I think it's kind of silly, but I understand it completely. Women have a tendency of not thinking that men can understand the psyche of a woman. They don't understand how one we think and our rationales with certain things, and it has a lot to do with dealing with motherhood and stress and this basic everyday life that women go through. Men tend to not fully understand the extent of that. That is basically, I think, now becoming more and more of a stereotype. There are wonderful authors who are male who know how to construct wonderful novels that are female driven. And I think that what happens, we need to learn how to get over that. I know that there is an author that is AJ Finn, who wrote a wonderful novel called The Woman in the Window. It's a psychological based novel that is more along the sides of a Hitchcock type of movie, but it's very female driven, and it feels like, for example, say The Girl on the Train, what it does with psychology. Everything is very mind based of what this female is going through. And when I read the book, I didn't even think that this person was a male or a female because of just how well written it is. And I will be very honest, at first I was a little surprised because it was like, oh my gosh, a man wrote that? And to get into how in depth it was and to fully feel connected to this character on a female driven level. So I understand why they do that. I think that I hope that it's something that is no longer needed. As we clearly see that
Yeah.
it's you, all you need to do is just understand a person, then you can easily get inside that character. So for me, I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, that's definitely a point right there. It does, matter how much, effort and research the author has actually done to, appeal to the type of reader they're going for. Like, you know, I'm not gonna lie and say that there are bad writers out there who, when it comes to, you know, writing women, they, you know, there's an unwritten rule where if you write a woman character as a man, you have to make them think about more than just men, you know, because women do think about more than men. Like, but men tend to think that women only think about relationships and love and sex and stuff like that. So that's where the issue comes in. But I think we're in a point in life now in society where you know, I think a lot of males have become more aware of, you know, women's needs and you know, what the things women think about and their priorities and, you know, their struggles in life and everything. So as long as the male author has that understanding of women, you know, I don't see any issues with them, you know, writing female characters or writing for a female audience. And you know, I mean, using the pen name is a sales tactic at the end of the day. And you know, if you're publishing a book, the objective is to put your book in front of as many readers as possible. And if changing your pen name to achieve that is what's needed, then there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how the market is. So
you have to go on talent alone. There are women who changed their pen names recently
yeah.
to for man. You know, if you look at E.L. James, that sounds like a man to me.
Hmm.
And that was 50 Shades of Grey, that whole series. But it also depends on how well you write. You can have a female who changes their pen name to a male and they can't write, i.e., E.L. James. So it really just depends on how well you understand your character. I don't think it depends on whether or not you're a male or female. You need to understand
Yep.
how your character thinks. And if you want that character to be that, you know, dumb person who loves shopping and clothing and that superficial type stereotypical female, then that's your character, whether or not you're a man or a female.
Yeah.
So it's just a
And people have.
oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you carry on.
No, I was just gonna just say is that you need to know how to write. You need to know how to have an understanding. I don't care if your name is Argo T or Canada Dry. Learn how to write, and you really shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, people have to remember the biggest case of this that happened, you know, very recently in the past few years or so. J.K. Rowling actually published the Cuckoo's Calling, you know, which is her detective novels. But when she initially published this, she published it under the name Robert Gillibro or something like that. I can't remember the actual name, but no, that was published under her original name, her real name. But the Cuckoo's Calling was published under, you know, a male's name, Robert Gilbro or whatever it was. And she was actually, you know, exposed. She was outed as the actual author. And that's when they started putting her name on the book, because, you know, J.K. Rowling's name on the book is going to sell, you know, copies. So once the information leaked, they just started putting her name on there. But, you know, she didn't actually want people to know that that was her, you know, her line of books. She just wanted to put it out there, and she wanted it to be appreciated for what it is without her name being attached. But, you know, that is an example of, you know, women actually using that, you know, that same method of pushing a new line of books, you know, by using a male's name. And another author that I've followed a lot over the years called Joanna Penn, she actually talked about this on her podcast, because she has a podcast that she does every week. She used to go by her name Joanna Penn on her books, and she still does for some books, but she writes a lot of religious thrillers and mystery and the types of books that, like, you know, Dan Brown would write. Basically, she writes a lot of stuff like that. And she discovered that once she stopped using the name Joanna Penn and changed it to J.F. Penn, those books started to sell more, because, you know, it's a more ambiguous name. Like you can't tell that that's man or woman, you know. So she saw a lot more sales once she did that in that genre. and that worked for her. So yeah, I mean, this stuff is, it's a benefit. It's not, there's nothing wrong with this. It's not a negative means of selling books at all. Like, this is how things work. And there isn't, as a reader, you shouldn't even care, to be honest. Like, you shouldn't care whether, as long as the book is good, that's the number one thing, and it shouldn't matter what name is on the book cover, at the end of the day. And it shouldn't matter whether a man wrote it or a woman wrote it, as long as it's good. And as long as it meets your expectations of what you expect from that genre, then there's 100% nothing wrong with it.
No. But can I pose a question to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that the same thing applies to, say, if you write for another race?
Ooh, that's a great question. That is a tricky one. That really is a tricky one. I'm gonna say, it's almost the same. It is slightly more sensitive, I think, than the gender thing, because, if you, for instance, had a white author, writing a book set in, a black setting, that will make you scratch your head a little bit. But I feel like if the author is that passionate about, that environment, the black environment and black people and the black culture enough to know everything there is to know about it, and to write for us in a correct way that represents us, then there's nothing wrong with that. If it's true to black people, there's nothing wrong with it, I think. But I just, it's not realistic, in my opinion. It's really not realistic, I don't think.
Do you think that no matter how, say, great the book is, they will always be labeled as not authentic? If it was a Caucasian person writing about
Probably, yeah.
African American?
I would say probably, just because of where we're at as a society. I think they would be judged, which is unfortunate, because people should be given a chance at least, But I think a lot of people would judge as soon as they find out it is a white author.
I say that because there is a novel called Everybody's Son, that's written by Thrifty Umger. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that name, but basically the person is Indian. And they write about an African American family in Harlem. And
See, I'll go, carry on.
So it's about the realistic aspects of Harlem and what happens to this boy who is put in the foster system because his mother basically is a crack addict on the streets of Harlem. Book is very well written, and you really feel that you're part of this person's story. But at the same time, this is an Indian writer.
Yeah, see, in that case, being Indian, means you are a minority as well. So right. I think that would come across a lot more authentic than, a white person, because we know that white people are more privileged. They have more privileges. It's not racism or anything like that. It's just the truth. White people are more privileged, in society. But Indians, blacks, Arabic people, they're minorities. So yeah, I think that would come across a lot more authentic if they're writing about African Americans, because they probably have some level of experience with, the struggles of African Americans. Okay. But what's your take on it?
I kind of agree, because there are certain things that they will never understand truly by just solely based on them not being a minority. So they can write in the spirit of, but I don't think it'll be as authentic, because technically it's something that they will most likely not experience.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's my take.
Yeah, I can agree. But I will say, I am open to giving, a white writer a chance. If they did write in, hypothetically, if they did write in, something about the African American culture, I would give them a chance. But, it's highly unlikely that it's going to be, accurate and that they're going to fully understand everything. But the same can be said, you know, well, you see it's a really tough conversation to have, because how do you feel about black people writing white characters? How do you feel about
Uh,
that? Like,
I don't I don't really know of many authors who do, but I
it
think
does happen. It
it
does
does
happen.
happen, but I think I would have less of an issue
Yeah, yeah, me too.
because I
And
don't think this is why though. It's not something that is about, going through the struggle, the minority struggle that we universally share.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
why
like
I don't have a problem with it so much.
yeah, the way society is structured is like, and this is like it's un it's unfortunate and sad to say, but when it comes to society, the white people are considered normal. So I for that reason, I would say that it's easier for a black writer to correctly depict a white character than it is for a white person to depict a black character, just because that's just how society is, unfortunately, you know.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I feel like the other way, it's different. But I mean, you could say that, a black person probably can't correctly depict an Arabic person or an Indian person, because they might not, particularly understand their religious structure and, their full culture, like, you know, the other way around. So yeah, I mean, it just depends really. I think it does depend. It is very situational, I think. Um, but yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a good conversation to have. I would like to hear a lot more opinions on that. Do you have anything else you wanted to say on that topic?
No, I can't. I don't really know. It's just something to ponder on. You know what I mean? It's a topic that I
Yeah,
see that's never ending.
yeah, yeah. I might have to delve into this topic a bit more. I might even write some articles about that on the site, because it's a very intriguing topic to discuss.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, might have to revisit that one. But yeah, we're gonna move on to what we've been reading in July now. You've been reading more than me, I know that already. So I'm gonna go first.
Yes.
So yeah, the main book that I read in July was Rogue Lawyer by John Grisham. And for those who are unfamiliar with John Grisham, he's an author who writes legal thrillers. So all of his books are set in, like, the legal industry. There's books about judges, lawyers, paralegals, everything you can think of. Um, so yeah, I picked up this book because this year I've read a lot of fantasy, a lot of dystopian fiction, some, cyberpunk and stuff. So I kind of wanted a book that was more grounded in reality, and more focused on, like, the everyday struggles of life, on Earth and everything. So yeah, I decided to pick this up because John Grisham novels are usually very easy to read and get into as well. He's a great writer as well. Like he like his books, I can always kind of visualize the scenes playing out in my mind as if they're TV shows or something. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something I love about his books. Like, I can pretty much picture it being a TV show on HBO or Stars or something like that. But so this book in particular, it's about a lawyer called Sebastian Rudd. And, he's the type of lawyer that he takes cases that other lawyers wouldn't touch, because the the people who are being accused, the clients that are being accused, their name is very dirty in the media. Like, for example, the first case that we're presented with in the book, he's defending someone called Gardy, who's been accused of murdering two little girls. And, he's the only suspect that the police found. So they took him in, and, there was a big press conference from the police chief. and that led to the whole town kind of hating this person, like, and because of that, they were very determined to kind of pin the case on him and convict him as being guilty. But Sebastian Rudd, he looks into all the evidence and he can tell that, this guy probably didn't do the murder. So he's willing to take on the case to prove that the guy is innocent, because he's looked at the actual evidence that's there and he's able to deduce that it's sufficient evidence. So yeah, he's the type of self-righteous lawyer who will take on cases like that and defend the suspected murderers and everything, and that kind of gives him a bad name as a lawyer, and it puts a target on his back, because the general public now, they see him as scum for defending a so-called murderer, and he receives death threats, and people try and find his house and smash his windows and all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, Sebastian Rudd is the kind of lawyer who's not afraid to get his hands dirty a little bit to prove that someone is innocent, and he's willing to go the extra mile to help out his clients and make sure he's representing them correctly. But as the book goes on, things kind of catch up to him a little bit, and yeah, I can't say too much because it kind of spoils the plot, but things get very interesting. There is a point where it seems like the cases are kind of irrelevant to each other. Like at one point, you're wondering if the book is basically just a bunch of short stories that have nothing to do with each other. But eventually, about halfway through, everything starts to connect a little bit more, and it starts to lead to like an ultimate conclusion, and all the cases start to intermingle a little bit, which is cool. And throughout the book, we also get to learn more about Sebastian Rudd's personal life as well. So like we learn about his ex-wife, his son, and everything, and all those different plot points come into play later on as well. So it's a very good book, and it's a very easy read. And I wouldn't say it's John Grisham's best work, but I think it's definitely a solid book. And if you're just looking for a summer read or something to bring on holiday with you, I think it's the perfect book, because you don't have to think too hard about it. You just read it and enjoy it.
So is it
But
more
yeah,
like a serial killer situation? Because you said several different cases.
what was the question? Sorry.
Is it more like a serial killer? Because you said there were several different cases that didn't make sense at
Mhm.
first.
No, there's the different cases are all, he's representing different people. So it's not, one person that he has different clients. So
Okay.
basically the book focuses on different clients that he represents. But at some point it starts to feel like none of this is connected, but it actually is kind of. So yeah,
Oh.
but yeah, it's pretty cool how it all ties in kind of. Um, but yeah, I mean, have you ever read like anything like that, like legal thriller or anything?
I've never really stepped into that genre.
Mm.
Uh, the only John Grisham book that I've read wasn't even his legal one. It was a Christmas book.
Oh, really? I didn't even know he had a Christmas book.
Yeah, he has. It was actually very after the name of it was so delightful just to read.
Mm.
But it was basically about Christmas and this little boy.
Was that
Trying to
for charity or something?
It was just really odd. It was just wait, hold on. It was so adorable. Skipping Christmas.
Oh, okay, I'll have to look that
Years
up.
came out in 2001. So when I say years, I literally mean years.
Oh yeah, that's a long time ago.
It was a lovely little comedy, and it's a short story. It's like 100 and something pages. That's how short it was, but it was just delightful. So I've never
Mm.
read any of his legal dramas. I've seen them, obviously, as tons of movies based off of them, but I've never read it. And I'm the
Okay.
only close to legal as I can get is Dan Meltzer, not Dan, David Meltzer.
Hmm.
He has a couple CIA novels that I've read. I have really ended up liking him. This was years ago. I would say more like around 3 years ago. I was really much into him and his writing because I like when there's always these different twists and turns and plot points, and I
Yeah,
like the secret undercover type stuff. So
that sounds exciting.
yeah, that was like the as much as legal as I can get.
Yeah, because the way I got into them, like, because I never imagined I would like, a legal drama book, but I think I was actually in America or something. Like, I was traveling in America, and like I came across a bookstore, and I was like, let me just get a book for, for the plane and everything. And I bought a John Grisham book. It was called The Associate, and I started reading it, and I was like genuinely interested because John Grisham, he has a lot of legal knowledge because I guess he might have been a lawyer or something. I can't remember. I can't quite remember, but he has a lot of real knowledge of the legal system. So yeah, it's his books are very real, and they teach you a lot about how the legal system works as well, which is cool.
And
So
as
yeah, I like. Go ahead.
no, go.
No, what was you gonna say?
I made the name was wrong. I said David Meltzer. I was confusing him with another person. His name is Brad Meltzer.
Okay. Yeah, David Meltzer is the wrestling guy, right?
He's the MMA guy.
That's hilarious.
So yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I would urge all readers to like, at some point you should just, randomly select a book and just read something that's outside of your usual genre because you never know, like you might find something else that you like, like that you never thought you would like.
Oh,
So
true.
I like to do that a lot. I like to do
Very.
that a lot as a reader.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that completely because I wasn't a fantasy. I didn't like fantasy at all until I was strongly suggested and forced to read The Lord of the Rings. So since
See,
then, I've loved it.
I never read The Lord of the Rings before. I do own them, but like I've never fully read them. I read some of the first one, but I never read them all. But yeah,
Oh, yeah. All of Tolkien's works are amazing. The
yeah,
Lord of
I'm
the
sure they
Rings,
are.
Hobbit, and Silmarillion. I loved every one. I had the ones with all the different maps, and you find out which character belongs to which story. I'm very much into Tolkien, all because I was forced to read The Lord of the Rings. So you're absolutely right. You have to go out there and find something that you would never read, and you'll be surprised at what you end up loving.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I have Amish
yeah,
porn books that I don't think I'll love, but in my possession. So I did not
yeah.
say no.
Did you buy that?
No, I was given the books by a very eager publicist,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it would be very interesting, and they're not bad. It's like a soft core porn novel about the firefighter
Interesting.
who came into town to put out the fire, but ended up putting out the fire in her heart.
I wonder how many fires he put out.
It was a lot of fires. Houses kept burning all the time for some reason.
Interesting. So you read a lot of erotica. Cool. Okay.
No, 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 I don't.
Um,
That and the 50 Shades of Grey series.
oh, you read those too? Oh
I
man.
read those because I
Uh,
did not in America. They blew up like crazy. And everywhere you go on the subway, or as you call it, the tube, there was women literally sitting next to each other, women after women after women, reading the book. And we have a show called Dateline and 2020, and they did stories about this author named E.L. James and her novels. So I read it like, what the heck is this? And that was my very first introduction to that genre. And I
So,
read all.
were you satisfied with the movie?
No, I thought, well, here's the thing. The books are as equally bad as the movie. So but I will say, for some reason, the book goes into depth more, but the movie cuts out things that we just do not need to see on screen at all. So
Cool. So
they're
you
equally
read book
horrible.
porn. Cool.
No, no, I read it out of curiosity because in America, everyone was obsessed. That is not something that I go towards as I stare at my copy of Amish porn.
Interesting. Okay, I know how you get down. It's cool. All right. So yeah, as for what else I read in July, I also read this book called 2K to 10K by Rachel Aaron. And this book is for writers and people who aspire to write books and stuff. And it basically talks about her methods of writing and how she was able to increase her word count per day because she has a set schedule for writing where she aims to write X amount of words every day. And for a long time, she was kind of slacking with it, but she figured out a system to where she was able to expand her daily word count from 2K to 10K. And she kind of shares her methods of writing and planning, stories and books and everything like that. And, I actually would like to write, I've written some fiction in the past, but, I don't like, yeah, they were like, it was my first attempt at writing, books. So, I don't promote them or anything. They're for a really small genre. So I only, like, not everyone would appreciate them, I don't think. But I would like to write, something that would be a bit more accepted by everybody. So, I do have ambitions to write, um, some fiction in the future, like some novels and stuff. So this was a cool book for me. And what I find usually when I read books like this about writing is that a lot of the information they give out is vague, like it's really vague. They don't give you a lot of tangible um, and practical tips. But this book really gave a lot of practical tips and it really showed a lot of her methods of structuring stories and, planning and editing her books and everything. So that's what I liked about her book. I think it's definitely one of the ones to consider reading if you are, considering writing a book or something like that. So,
So what was the best advice that she gave out of the entire book?
man, there was so many gems. Let me think. Um, so yeah, there's something she talked about in the planning phase where she was like, basically, you you write down like before you write each chapter, you kind of like make a bullet list of all the major events that are happening in that scene so that, when you look back at the book and everything, you can tell where each thing is happening, but you also assign like a color. So you have like a color code, like you assign a color to each plot point that's happening. So if you're writing a complex story that has multiple plot lines, like a romance, the main story, or this character's doing this character's on that mission, you can assign different colors to them. And then when you look back at all of your chapters, you can tell where too much of one plot is happening in a few chapters, so you can kind of balance things out a bit more so that your romance is happening, is developing every few chapters or so. And because you don't want a whole chapter of just romance, like multiple things have to be going on at the same time if you have multiple plot points. So things like that really helped because it can be hell to plan a novel. Like especially when you're thinking of having all these different plot points that, intertwine and stuff. Like it can be held to keep track of. So, she details a lot of planning methods that help you keep track of everything and help you visualize things in a different way, so that you can know whether, your book is going in the right direction or not. So, yeah,
Does she
things like
promote
that help.
storyboarding?
Um, she does to an extent. She has her own method of storyboarding. It's not like a traditional way, um, where people tend to use sticky notes and charts and all that stuff. She just tends to like write everything out, in a structured way. Like, have you seen bullet journaling? She kind of does a method
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. And is there any discussion about time management skills? Because I know a lot of people who want to write, but they just can't seem
Hmm.
to fit it in with that whole time. So does she discuss any tips and things about time management?
Oh yeah, she talks a lot about that because she's married and I believe she has children as well. So it's not all for people like that. It's not always easy to write. It's not easy to find the time to write because you have all these different responsibilities to look after. So yeah, she talks about different ways that she overcomes that. Like she wakes up a few hours earlier so that she can get in some writing time, and she also, I guess, she works from home, but she finds that when she does work from home, it's difficult for her to write at home as well because she associates that space as her work. How she makes money on a day-to-day basis. So what she does as well is she goes to a coffee shop or something or a cafe and does some writing there for, like an hour or two. And she often finds that doing that maximizes the number of words that she's able to write because at home there's just too many distractions. Like at some point you are going to get distracted by something, like whether it's something on your desk that shouldn't be there, or your bedroom's a bit untidy, or the kids are running around, upstairs or something like that. There's going to be something that takes you out of that creative zone. So she offers a lot of tips like that, where you should schedule different times to get away from the house or wake up earlier or go to bed later or whatever. So yeah, she gives a lot of practical advice like that.
Oh, okay. So in terms of you, are you more of a day writer or a night writer?
Definitely a night writer because I am a night owl and I like to do my most productive work when everybody else is sleeping, or where everyone else is not at their most active hour, like because I find during the day there's just too much going on, it's too distracting, I can't concentrate on anything. But at nighttime when everything's quiet and calm and peaceful, that's when I can really use my creativity, I think. So I'm definitely a night writer.
Oh, cool.
And as we talk now, it's actually nighttime now, and I like to do podcasts at night as well because there's less distractions. So
That is true. Very true.
is writing something that you've thought about doing before?
I've been writing since I was in first grade. So, yes, it's something that
Writing fiction?
I write fiction and screenplays. And I used to be a very
Oh
big
wow.
into poetry. I had a couple things published in America.
Oh wow, really? I didn't know this. We got to
Yeah,
talk off air.
yeah, yeah. I'm like you know how you what you're born to do. That's basically what I've been doing. I've been involved in a lot of writing. I do screenplays and did a lot of musicals. And
Oh yeah, because I know you did work for I'm not I don't know if I'm allowed to say actually on air, but I know you did work for a company. So
yeah,
I guess I kind of knew.
a lot of scripted dramas and television shows, but also like on my own. I went to school for writing. Many people don't seem to remember. But yeah, no, I went to school for English and journalism, and back in like the high school type days, like From
Mm.
6th to 12th grade, I attended it's called a specialized school. It's called Professional Performing Arts. So it's for
Yeah.
people who are in the arts. And I studied writing. And I would have to
Uh,
write and perform all of my stuff and also do musicals. So songwriting, fiction, musicals, anything that's, um, like I said, poetry before, screenplays for like actual producers and in Hollywood. Yeah.
okay, we definitely got to talk off air then, and I need to introduce you to my friend Ramiz because I know he's trying to do some script writing as well. So yeah,
Yep.
it's very interesting. I didn't know you did all that. You're a
Yeah.
woman of many talents.
Oh, just a small few. A small few talents. But yeah, I tend to do that. I do drama and comedy.
Cool, awesome. So yeah, 2K to 10K, definitely a book I would recommend on writing books and everything. So check that out. And the final book that I've been reading in July, I still haven't finished it yet, but I started reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the third book in the series. If you remember last month, I talked about A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. So this is the third and final book in that trilogy. So yeah, it's there's not that much I can really say about it without spoiling what happens in the other books, but basically, there's this region called Highburn, and the king of that country, he kind of wants to disturb the peace between humans and high fae. And high fae are the fairies, the magical beings of this specific world. It's called Prithian. um so yeah, basically an evil king wants to disturb the peace between humans and the magical beings. And there's sort of like a resistance group who are kind of trying to build up alliances so that they can take on the king. So that's the premise of the story at the moment. And of course, it involves a lot of love, romance, and sex in there as well. So you'll love it because there's sex in there. But yeah, I mean, the sex is very toned down in this one than it was. What was you saying?
Hardy har har.
Yeah, I think you would like it though. But yeah, the sex is toned down in this book compared to the previous ones, and I think that's a good thing because in the previous ones it kind of felt like the sex scenes were really explicit to the point that, huh?
they
What was that?
they were jarring. Jarring. They were jarring.
Yeah, they were a little. I mean, that wasn't that bad to where the book was terrible, but it took away from it a little
And it
bit
took
because
everyone by surprise.
yeah, yeah, it like because these read like your typical um fantasy books, like that fantasy magic and stuff like that, and just to have explicit love scenes like that, it kind of hits you from nowhere a little bit, like because it's like reading a more mature Harry Potter, but then you have these explicit set scenes and it suddenly becomes more of an adult's book. And of course I am an adult, so I don't have that much problem with it, but my issue is that like these books are written and presented as if a younger audience could read them, but then you have explicit sex scenes as well, so it's kind of confusing in that sense. But I guess there is like a market and demographic for these types of books though. um and yeah, it's more dark fantasy, I guess, and I guess that is a subgenre in itself. So I suppose you don't get too many young readers checking it out, but the way it's presented, it's like I'm sure you would get people who've just read Twilight or Harry Potter looking at these books and thinking that it's the same, but it's really not.
Yeah, that's what
um
was my original thinking.
yeah, yeah, it's really not, it's
And
really
I've heard a lot.
it's
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people like It's not the
It, it
same.
yeah, definitely not. It's not the same. It's real different from, Harry Potter and Twilight and Hunger Games. I mean, there are some similarities, but as far as um the content, it's very different. But yeah, they're interesting books. The first one was a little meh, but from the second one, it gets a lot more interesting. So yeah, I'm enjoying that, and I'll be happy once it's finished though, because these books are very long as well. Like the last two books are quite long, like 600 pages, 600 plus pages.
It's
So
like a
yeah,
Harry
kind of.
Potter book length.
Yeah, but Harry Potter books never really feel like that because they're so easy to read.
So
It
does the
never
book
really feels
feel
that
like
long.
700 pages?
This does, yeah, because there are parts where it drags or it requires a lot of concentration to understand what's happening because it presents a lot of complex magic and information about the world to you. Whereas I feel like Harry Potter, it's it does have a lot of world building and descriptive things, but it's presented in such a clear and simple way that it's never kind of convoluted to you. It just kind of rolls off the page almost. But this it requires a higher level of concentration, I think. And the
So for
writing is
those who
the writing is a lot more advanced than Harry Potter, I think.
So for those who haven't read it, would you say that the author creates its own world with its own language, similar to, say, Tolkien and the elves?
To a degree, yes. Definitely not as advanced as Lord of the Rings, but to a degree, yeah, it does introduce a lot of you know um, original words and stuff like that and language.
Okay, sounds good.
So yeah.
Except for the draggy parts.
Hmm?
It sounds good aside from the draggy parts.
Yeah, I mean, the most of the draggy parts are in the first book, but yeah, the other books, it just requires a higher level of concentration to keep up with everything that's happening. But
So
I would say
overall,
that this is like a tamer version of Game of Thrones almost, and that's how they try to market it. It's not completely like Game of Thrones, so don't get me wrong. It's definitely nothing near the level of Game of Thrones. But you know, if we're talking in terms of comparing it to Harry Potter and Twilight and other sort of young adult fantasy, then yeah, this is definitely on a higher level than that. In terms of you know, um, how it's written.
that's good. Overall, so would you say the series itself is worth it as a whole?
Yeah, if you enjoy dark fantasy, then yeah, go for it. If you're the type of person who enjoys fantasy that's kind of easy to read, then no, you might not like it.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, definitely interesting. I like the main character and I like some of the supporting cast. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's sort of a guilty pleasure kind of book as well, I would say, because this is really like these books are really geared towards women as well, but men can enjoy them. So yeah, for me, it's like a guilty pleasure.
That's not bad.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I've been reading in July. I know you've been reading a lot more than me, so I'm gonna hand over to you now and let us know what you've been reading this month.
Gonna just let everyone know I'm a hoarder, a book hoarder, and
Oh, you,
so
you
if
definitely are.
I am, you should see the pictures on Instagram. But yes, I will start off with Into the Water, which I don't think I spoke about last month. I'm gonna say, so it's basically a novel by Paula Hawkins, who wrote The Girl in the Train. That was
Oh,
the
you
only
did talk about that.
I did talk about that one. Okay, so then I'm going to go into another one. I'm going to go into We Were Liars. We Were Liars is a novel about this. female. She's a young female in her family, and every year they go to like the Hamptons, and they just spend the summer there. What happens is there's a tragic accident, and she now has to learn how to cope with this accident. And she goes back to the island of basically her family, and she plays with her cousins, and it's about the summer love, and she ends up falling in love with, it's kind of complicated, but it's her step, it's not, they're not biologically related fully, so it's the step cousin. So it's about
Hmm.
their romance and her dealing with the other kids and their interaction with each other, and how something really feels off because she had this horrible accident previously, and everyone has been treating her essentially with like these kid gloves, making sure that she's okay, babying her, not reminding her about what happened. So her goal is to find out what happened that one summer that everyone seems to be avoiding. And at the end, there's a twist, which I will not spoil. I went through a lot of different emotions because I kind of like, you can kind of figure it out in the middle of the middle of the book almost. When if somebody says something, but you don't really pay it any mind until it's like the end when it all makes sense what they're saying.
Right.
So it's more like a mystery novel more than like a fun beach read.
Okay.
That's what I originally thought. I thought it was going to be this fun beach read about, my summer love and growing up in school and what's it like, for a teenager in
So
in the Hamptons.
what would you rate it out of 5 stars?
See, that's the very hard part, is because I didn't like how it ended because I thought it was cheating the audience, but at the very same time, it was effective for what it was trying to do. Go right in
Okay.
the center and probably do it of 2.5. It's not
Okay.
something that I would
Interesting.
say rush out and get. It's clearly one of those library books for me. So
Hmm.
I would say that. And I liked it and I didn't like it, but it was something that was easy to read, so it wasn't a struggle in that part. It's short. It was about 200, well, probably like 266 pages. So you're not really wasting your life if this was like, say, a Stephen King size novel. So you're good in
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah. Sometimes you
Um,
need those easy reads.
yeah. So it's by it being quick, it also helps. Another book that I have read is called The Couple Next Door. You're aware of my hatred for this book.
Yeah.
If there was one book in the face of the world that I hate, I don't even have the copy because like I read it and I like, it's a library book. It was one of those books where I wish I could have just burnt it, and I wish I could have burnt it in front of the author. It's that
Well,
type of hatred that I had for the book. I'm
well, you
so
did do some on Instagram. I think I did see you did do some sort of damage to it because was didn't the pages get wet or something?
that's how I think it was the universe trying to warn me. In New York City, we had a horrible flash flood, and I had it in a cart. And usually, anytime I have a book, I wrap it in like a plastic bag just to be safe and to be careful. I didn't. And it was at the bottom of the cart, and the cart got completely soaked, and the book got to the point where it was almost ruined. Like I had
Oh
to
wow.
blow dry the pages one by one, and then like 20 minutes later, they were still soaking wet. So I
Wow.
think that was more like a supernatural occurrence saying, do not read this book any further. And like some of the ink, you can see how the ink gets like, when it gets too wet and it gets that weird rippling effect.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was like the universe trying to tell me, stop reading this book. You will regret it. It's not worth it. And it
Well,
wasn't worth it. It's so bad. Oh
well, at
my
least the book
gosh.
survived though. Maybe someone else will like it.
Yeah, I hope no one else likes it because it really shouldn't be liked. I'm so sorry. And
So
I don't mean to come off as harsh.
what didn't you like about the book? So tell us
So,
about it.
okay, so this is what it's about. Um, gosh, it's by Shari LaPina. So I'm sorry if I offend any of her fans, but screw it. Her book sucked. The book is about this what you would see. It starts off at this party, right? And it's a party that they have next door. It's two couples, both husband and wives, right? Separate, and they leave their baby at home. The baby's like around 6 months old, right? So it's not like someone who can jump up and start walking and running around the house. It's still small, essentially. So they decide that they want to go to this party next door. And instead of taking the baby with them because they're stupid, they decide to leave the baby in the crib thinking it will sleep all the way through because they're stupid
Wow.
and clearly haven't read any books based on babies. But they think that they can take the baby monitor. And if the baby wakes up, they could just hear it through the monitor as they're at this party, which involves a lot of drinking. See how the stupidity is still going through? And she's still
Terrible.
breastfeeding. She's breastfeeding her child while getting completely wasted at this party that's literally right next door. They're in a series of townhouses. And so they're kind of connected. So literally right next door is where the party's happening. So they decide to check on this lovely bouncing baby girl every half an hour, right? Seems fine, but also remember these people are very drunk. And the wife is going through postpartum depression. So we have mental illness, stupidity, and so we're going to leave our baby next door. Lo and behold, when they decide to go home at 1 a.m., the baby is gone. They cannot find the baby. And so it ends up being a novel about what happened to this child. Now that sounds very enticing, right? The
Yeah, it
missing
does.
baby, the couple
But the
next door. Oh my gosh, who has the baby? So it's a lot of secrets that go down, and there's some lying that happens. And I'm really trying not to spoil this book, not because I want people to read it, but because it's so hard not to spoil this book. But I will say this, does not know how to write. So you
the
get a lot of jarring sentence structures that doesn't really, nothing flows properly. And you get the perspectives of the wife, the husband, the couple next door, okay, their perspective, plus the parents. So the grandparents of the children and the detective who's trying to figure out what happened to this baby. Okay? So you have 5 different perspectives. Now, usually when you read a novel, you know how it's like broken down in chapters, so you know what the heck is going on and you can kind of follow through.
yeah,
This author decides to put everyone's thoughts and ideas into the same chapter.
yeah, you can't do that. You at
So,
least got to split it up with an asterisk or something.
do you understand the
Because she,
level of frustration alone of just trying to read that?
so
Like,
are you telling me she doesn't even like split it with
she
an
can't
asterisk or
write to save
anything?
her life. I'm so sorry. She can't write. She does not know how to structure. She cannot write. And on top of that, her writing is very dull. You know the
Oh,
basic concept of show, don't tell?
yeah.
So show me your emotions. Show me what you're going through. Show me your pain and your struggle. You lost your baby. Do you know what that does to the psyche? And then on top of that, you have mental illness. So you're constantly already thinking that you're a bad mother to begin with. And now that your baby is gone, can you imagine the level that that will bring you to? The breakdown that you will go through? This
Hmm.
is literally how she writes. I am sad. I miss my child. Where could she be? Oh, darn, I don't feel like I'm a good mother. That's the novel, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to go through that. And then you have story after story after story of trying to figure out what happened. But that's not even the best part. You ready for the best part of the whole novel? There are about
What's that?
20 different plot twists. 20. This thing is like, take a really bad Lifetime movie, and then spoof it. And the plot twist, I'm all for the plot twist. I love me a good plot twist when I think something's going to happen and you gasp so much that it's out loud and people think that you're having an asthma attack. I love that. No, this woman had 20 different plot twists that didn't even make any sense. By the time we was done, the darn cat almost had the baby. And I'm not even joking.
The cat.
Kid
I
was
might
like,
read it just for the cat.
Like, what's up, cat? And the cat was like, what's up? I found you. I'm going to bring you home. It's so bad. And probably based on just my opinion, everyone's going to go and read it. It's so bad.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. You're kind of selling the book for me. Like it sounds hilarious.
I don't mean to sell it, but it's so bad. Like, no. It's, oh gosh. It's like everything that you were told not to do to write is what you don't do. But it's not even like I'm going to be smart and innovative about it. It's literally a person who does not know how to write, who thinks she can be smart and innovative, who just makes it even worse.
Sounds like the author should have called this book "The Couple of Idiots Next Door." That sounds like a more fitting title.
Okay, and by saying that, everyone's an idiot. Like literally, everyone's an idiot. So it's not even the fact that you feel sorry for everyone, because everyone's an idiot. And every single character you hate. So how am I supposed to be sympathetic towards this child? By the end of I legit, and I know this is so terrible to say, I wish the kid was dead.
Wow.
Just because they wouldn't have to grow up to be around these idiots. These self-centered idiots. Like sacrifice the baby. Of course, I'm not promoting death of a child. I'm not promoting killing. But
yeah, we gotta put a disclaimer. We gotta put a disclaimer on here.
I love children. Don't kill anyone. Yay life. But that's how bad everyone was. That's just how deplorable of a person they all were collectively. Just, I wish the child was dead so they just wouldn't have to be surrounded by this. And then on top of that, it's a side story of mental illness. And the way how they handle mental illness, she uses it more of a convenience of, oh yeah, let me just add this one extra 21st twist and throw in that mental illness there. So
it seems like a lot of ideas just kind of meshed together, kind of like. That's what it sounds like. A lot of ideas for plot twists just kind of smushed together.
That's not something I would recommend.
Definitely not.
No, because it's insulting. It's insulting of the reader's intelligence. It's insulting of anyone who's trying to read. Like if you are not that great in reading, just overall in general, and you want to like pick up a book and test out your reading skills, it's insulting. It's insulting to people who have mental illness. It's insulting to just basically books itself. So no, those trashy Harlequin novels, not knocking Harlequin novels, but it sure is better than that. So yeah, I'm a scorn.
All right, so because I don't want to receive any hate mail from the author, what else did you read in July?
Sorry, author. Okay, now the complete opposite of what I read. I've read the most beautiful novel that has ever been written in the face of novel writing. It's old to America, but it's been around since 2007, actually. It's called The Vegetarian by Han Kang. It's a Korean novel that was translated into English by this very wonderful woman her name is Deborah Smith. And I just want to thank her and hug her so much for what she did. It's this novel that is the winner of the Man Booker International Prize, and it just came out in America. So even though it's in 2007, Americans are just now reading it. It's the only novel that's ever been translated into English, which I really want to read more of this author because I just want to hug her. I love her. Anyway, it's called The Vegetarian. It's about this woman. I'm not going to pronounce any of the names because they're all in Korean names, and I'm not going to butcher these precious characters. But this woman decides she wants to become a vegetarian. Very simple idea. You know, I'm a vegan when I'm not eating meat. So there's that. So she decides she wants to become a vegetarian. Very simple. However, this is not something that happens in Korea. This is, you know, eating meat is just their staple. They eat meat and fish and meat and more meat and nothing but meat. And every day is meat. So for someone to say, I'm going to become a vegetarian, is basically considered a shame
A
or a
big
mark
deal.
on the family. Understand?
Yeah.
So it's her family trying to cope with her not eating meat and the shame that she brought upon this family. But it's way more than I'm not eating meat. Its book is about basically becoming your own person. The culture is much different where, you know, women are seen, not heard. You follow what your father says, you follow what your husband says. You don't really have your own voice. So by her saying, I'm going to become a vegetarian, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, is her finding her own self and her making her own decisions that go against everything that society stands for. And she is chastised by not just her family, her friends, the community, people around her. And I think the most important aspect of this whole novel is we never get her point of view. You never hear her voice. It's broken into 3 chapters. The first chapter is about her husband and his take on things. And I'm sorry, I hate the husband, but it's kind of like he married her because she's simple, she's ordinary, and he knew that she would never cause a fuss or a fight about anything. And he didn't want to marry, say, someone who is highly successful because he's not highly successful. So it would interrupt his self-esteem. So he feels like not necessarily better than, but he feels like he's more like essentially he feels less of a person because he married her, because they're equally just boring and plain and never fully accomplished anything. You know what I mean? They're not like doctors and scientists and violinists. So that's the first chapter. The second chapter is told by the brother-in-law, which would be her sister's husband, and how he feels about her becoming a vegetarian. She's a vegetarian, but she ends up denouncing all forms of life, like so eggs, man eggs. So she's essentially a vegan. So
Right.
it's about how he ends up taking everything and his possession and love of her and everything that she stands for, but it's kind of violent. It's very violent novel. She becomes a vegetarian based on this dream, and it's a very violent dream, and a lot of things are she has a violent act that's committed to her because vegetarian. And it ends up going into more like mental illness.
Mm.
And you get to see her basically losing herself and losing her mind. And I think it's more to do with just a diet change. This is something with just overall of wanting to be herself and she's not allowed to, and the death of herself. And so the third chapter is the sister's point of view and what happens when the character becomes vegan and how it affects her. So everyone is affected, but you never hear the voice of the actual
Person.
vegetarian. So
Right.
it's basically a Korean horror that's beautifully told.
Yeah. I
would
think I got to read this because I feel like
it's only 188 pages, and if I could compare it to anything, it would be the most beautiful painting you've ever seen.
oh wow, yeah, you've definitely sold this one to me. I definitely want to read it because I actually wanted to read something international this year as well. So yeah, this fits in.
And yeah,
I
and
definitely
the
want
only
to read
thing
this.
that I wish I understood Korean so that I could read it in its original format.
in a
Just I
native
don't know if
tongue.
there's yeah, I don't know what it is that I'm missing. There could be a lot of things that's lost in translation. And I wish I knew Korean so I could read it in its original writing. So she's a beautiful writer.
It sounds very psychological as well. I'm
Yeah.
very intrigued by how you've described it. So yeah, I think I might read that as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
It,
anything else in July?
in July, yes, but you guys won't get it into August. It's called Miles Morales, basically based off of the Black Spider-Man. They made a novel. The author is James Reynolds, and the book will come out on the 18th of August. It's so wonderful just to have a book that's just so relatable. Like, no
And
offense to
it's a graphic
Spider-Man.
novel, right?
No, novel
Oh, okay.
with
Oh,
words, no pictures. It's wonderful. It's like a young adult, I would say, but it doesn't matter. You can be an adult and still read it. It's basically, we all know Miles Morales. He's half Dominican, half black Spider-Man. And it's basically about him living in Harlem with not Harlem. I said Harlem. I am sorry. I've been watching too much Luke Cage. He is in Queens, and it's about him dealing with his family and becoming this superhero. But it's more than like, oh, I'm a superhero, so now I'm cool. It's more of like a survivor's remorse because he sees his environment, especially as being a minority, and the police and how they end up treating minorities, and how he's able to basically survive all of that, but he sees his friends unable to do anything and they're helpless in their own lives because they face so much discrimination around them.
right.
It's him dealing with how do I make it as a black, not necessarily a man, but a black teenager transitioning into that manhood type mentality.
Coming of
So
age.
yeah, it's a coming of age novel, but it's like minority based. So it's like, how do I survive? Basically, it's how do I just survive and keep living despite all these atrocities around me. And now I'm a superhero. But what happens to those who don't have these abilities? I have to go out and protect them. So it's very different than Spider-Man and what he
So
goes
it
through.
is this is actually published by Marvel as well?
This is
Is it?
published by Marvel Press or
Okay.
Hyperon Teens. It's one of the two.
Okay, so is there actually a lot of Spider-Maning in this? Like is he actually swinging around, saving the town and the city and everything? Like,
He's
or is it
running
more
around
focused on
now, but
Miles
it's not.
Morales?
Yeah, it's not like, hey, Spider-Man, how you doing? It's like, yo, what the heck you doing? You trying to, stop us from making money situation.
What's the ratio of Miles Morales to Spider-Man? Like, is it more about Miles Morales himself,
Oh,
or is it equal?
it's more, you get more miles than you do Spider-Man because you have
Okay,
to understand who the person is before he becomes a superhero. And they're
interesting.
connected. You can't be a superhero without understanding who you are and where you come from.
Right. So are there more superhero novels like that? Because I've never heard of like the
Yeah,
superheroes actually having novels,
they're gonna
written
do
novels.
Black Panther next year. I'm gonna say next year, 2018 or the very end of 2017.
Okay. So is this is the Miles Morales one like the first in this type,
I could
or are
not. I
there
did an
were there
interview with the
previous ones?
author, and I could not get a. He was like, I don't know. Chuckle, chuckle, chuckle.
Okay.
I don't know. So that was a wink of maybe yes, or a wink of I really don't know, and there's something in my eye.
Okay, interesting. I've got to look into that because that sounds interesting because I've never like heard of Marvel or DC characters having their own like written novels. So
Yeah, well,
that's
I know.
interesting for sure.
I think they just released, or they're going to release Wonder Woman.
Okay,
Yeah, when I was down at
cool.
BookCon, they did a big Wonder Woman thing. So Wonder Woman, if it hasn't been released now, will release in the fall, and then there's Black Panther next year.
Cool. I'm definitely going to do some research on that because that sounds interesting.
Yes.
So was there anything else in July, or was that it?
Is there anything else in July? I will say that uh, I think I've read everything. Yep. Oh, and
Okay.
I did
Cool.
Citizen Newt. It's a political book. It's basically based on Newt Gingrich's life
Hmm.
and how he stepped into his political office and how he is now anyone in America. He's a part of the Trump administration and how his ideas are basically Donald Trump's ideas. And it's very fantastic how he ended up,
Yeah,
how it's written.
you talked about that one as well last
No,
time.
that one was Understanding Trump.
Okay. So
This
this
one is
is a completely different one.
a completely different one. This is about, okay, Understanding Trump was written by Newt Gingrich about how he
Okay.
understood Trump and how he is trying to basically take his platform and give it to Trump.
Hmm.
And that was like the one where he was like, yeah, he's a fourth grader, but he can still help the country. This one is called Citizen Newt. It's by Craig Shirley. And it's about how Newt Gingrich got into power and his love for Reagan and Reaganomics and how it inspired him to become the person who he is now, whether or not you love him or hate him. It's more of a psychology of Newt Gingrich. The other one was the psychology of Trump. So that's the difference between the two. And that would be it.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, we're gonna end off by saying what we're gonna be reading next month in August 2017. So I will go first. I'm actually, going away for like a week in August, so I'm keeping my my planned reading a little light, and all of these books are kind of, shorter as well, like they're around the 300-page mark or so, because yeah, I don't know how much time I'm gonna actually have to read and everything. But the first book that I definitely want to read is The Neuromancer by William Gibson. And this is, cyberpunk sci-fi. This is actually the book that inspired The Matrix. This is like the novel that they kind of got a lot of their ideas from when, they came up with The Matrix. I forget what's the names of the people who wrote The Matrix. Is it the Wachowski brothers? I think that's
Yeah, they
correct,
were
right?
formerly known as the Wachowski brothers. They're not the
Yeah.
Wachowskis anymore.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so they're like this is the story that inspired them basically. So yeah, that's pretty much all I know. I don't know a lot about the book. I just know it's, cyberpunk. It has a sort of sci-fi world like similar to The Matrix. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finally reading that because this was published quite some time ago. I hope it actually holds up well, and it's easy to read today. And I'm also reading a book called The Unknowns, which is like a comedy, sort of like a geek comedy book. And that is about a school outcast slash computer geek who he becomes like a dot-com millionaire. And now he's kind of looking for love. He's looking for the right, girl and eventually wife for him to support his lifestyle and everything. So yeah, it's a very witty and funny kind of novel. Just an
Romance.
easy read. Yeah, it's like a rom-com kind of
It's a
book.
romance novel. Reading the romances with the flowers and the love notes and
Yeah,
sensual kisses.
yeah, it's a romance novel for geeks, essentially. Um, so yeah, that's just the easy read for. I'll probably read that the week I am actually away, because I think that'll be more fitting for when I am away. And then I also plan to read. I've read this before, but I have a mission to read all of the Sherlock Holmes stories again. Um, so yeah, I'm going
Wow.
to read Sign of the Four, which is the second official Sherlock Holmes novel. So yeah, I'm gonna plan to read that again this month as well. I love Sherlock Holmes, man. I don't know if you've read any, but I love it. It's my favorite classic fiction.
I read,
And
I'm gonna say one for school,
okay,
probably. I'm like 40% sure I read one.
okay, yeah. I just really like the Sherlock Holmes character. I like his mythology and how he thinks, and how he sees the world. And I like that the novels aren't written from his perspective; they're written from Dr. Watson's perspective. So like he's actually journaling about Sherlock Holmes and the cases he does and his actions basically. So I like that aspect to it as well because it's like a study of this character. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of the Sherlock Holmes stories, he actually based Sherlock Holmes off of someone he knew in real life as well, who easily figured out things, and deduced things in their head, So he kind of based the character on someone he actually knew. So yeah, I really like Sherlock Holmes. And that's pretty much it. I'm probably gonna bring a few comics with me as well. I have Deadpool and Carnage. I haven't read that yet. My friend got me that for Christmas, so I'm probably gonna read that as well. I'm gonna bring it on holiday with me. I'm actually going to Forbidden Planet at some point as well with my friend Ramiz, so I might pick up some stuff there as well. Some comics and graphic
Nice.
novels. I need to I don't know if you've heard of 100 Bullets, which is a graphic novel series. I need to read I think book 4 of that now, so I might buy
Oh,
that.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, it's damn, who publishes that again? I think it's oh man, what are they called? It's not Marvel or DC, it's one of like the other publishing outlets. I think they might be owned by DC though.
Is
Is
it
it
on
Vertigo
Teams?
or something? Hmm?
Hyper on Teams?
No, I think it's Vertigo or something. I want to say Vertigo, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's basically um it's like a crime kind of setting. It's about this government agency who they kind of find people who have been wronged in some way, like maybe their sister has been murdered or their parents have been murdered or something, and they present them with a gun and 100 bullets, and there's a dossier in there as well that tells them the person who wronged them in some way, and they basically give them the choice to kill that person, and the bullets that they give them are untraceable. And at the scene of the crime, when the police come across the bullets, they immediately scrap the case altogether. So this government agency basically gives people a moral choice of whether they want to get revenge or not. It's completely up to them. So yeah, that's what the series is about.
Oh, they should have used those bullets to kill all the characters in the couple next door.
Yeah, yeah. That seems like a good way to end that
Yes.
novel based on how you described it. Um,
Basically.
but yeah, 100 Bullets is a great graphic novel series, so I'm looking forward to reading more of that. But that's pretty much what I'm going to be reading in August, though. What about you? I know you're probably reading like 100 books or something. So
You
last
seen I had 30 books. 30. But I'm going to tell you
30.
why
Wow.
I had 30, which,
Yeah,
in realistic terms, I'll be lucky if I can get through 12.
you
My
yeah,
goal,
you're gonna have to give us the short version of that. So
yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
I'll give you my top three.
All right.
But yes, met someone who read 19 books a month, and that
Oh wow.
seems lovely.
So
Impossible, but lovely.
how did the time management on that work? Like, did they read like how many books per
I
week
think they
was that?
sacrificed their life for those 30 days to just read.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some quick math real quick just to see like what 19 divided by 4 is, just to see like the average
Yeah,
of
because
how
you can
many.
even read three.
So
A month is still
okay,
less
so they
than 90.
read they read like 5 books a week or something like that.
Basically. That, yeah, basically. I failed math, but that sounds right. Terribly.
Just under 5 books, but yeah.
Same.
Carry on. What are you reading?
All right. So this is a book that I literally lost my arm. Not literally, but it, like the blood stopped flowing, and if it continued to stop, I would have had to have it amputated. But it's this book called Unraveling Oliver. Oh my gosh, it's such a good book. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay. So it's by Liz Nugent. It's about this lovely couple, and they're having dinner, and I love you, babe, and I love you too, babe. All of a sudden, he violently attacks her out of the blue. And basically, you find out that this guy is, you remember American Horror Story? Not American Horror Story, American Psycho?
Yeah.
He's basically the dude from American Psycho. He's legit crazy. And it just uncovers the psychology behind this man and the life that he really has. And it's all triggered by that one night where he was eating dinner, I think it was a good steak dinner with his wife, and he almost beats her to death with the chicken and the steak.
With the chicken. Okay.
And the steak. He just violently turns out of the blue, and it's called Unraveling Oliver. And I am, like I said, I almost lost my arm trying to get a copy of this book. Literally, I was bum rushed, but I lived because I'm short and I can duck under people's legs.
Wait, so tell us that story, how you almost lost your arm.
I went to BookCon. This was back in June. Mm-hmm. And they was talking about these 5 books, and everyone was like really excited about it. And I was taking notes feverishly, and I was literally sitting next to the people from Lionsgate, and they was taking more notes than me, and they was like really into this book, and their faces was gleaming and looking all happy. Lo and behold, out of the blue, they announced, "We have copies of the book right in the back." This thing held over 200 people, okay? Imagine 200 people running at the same time to get a copy of the book. Yeah, just picture Black Friday.
Well, I'm just glad you got it in the end, and I'm glad that you're still intact.
Like I said, I legit almost lost an arm, but I got it. So I am excited to read this novel more than anything in the world. I think it comes out at the very end of August, but I am excited to read this novel. Okay, so the other novel is called The Last Mrs. Parrish. It is by Liv Constantine. This is another novel that I went crazy over. It does not come out until October. I emailed every human I can basically find on the planet to get me an advanced reader copy of this novel. It is about this couple, and this woman becomes obsessed about this man. Okay? She's like, I love this man. I'm in love with him. I'm going to be the last Mrs. Parrish. And the whole novel is, what the heck happened to the first Mrs. Parrish? So that is by Liv Constantine. It comes out at the October 17th. But I went legit crazy. Obsessed. It was one of those books where you hear about, and you know how like it stays on your mind and you don't really think about it, and then slowly it starts to seep deeper and deeper into your psyche.
Yeah.
To the point where you're like obsessed about something. That's how I was. I was completely
You sound
obsessed.
like you were just as obsessed as the woman in the book.
I was. It's literally my story. Like, that's why I'm so connected to it. I was like, oh, this character is me. I'm going to
I think I actually heard about that book as well.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to be the first reader of this book. I don't care what I have to do. Like, literally, I was like to the point where I don't care what I have to do. I'm getting this novel. And I could have easily waited, but no. That's how obsessed I became about the book. I wanted this book. So, for the record,
well, you got it. you got it really far in advance, so you should consider yourself privileged in that sense.
I'm so privileged right now. Like, yay. But the next novel is I like wrestling and I like wrestlers. And Chris Jericho has a novel called No is a Four-Letter Word. So it's like
It's a novel.
it's called No is a Four-Letter Word. It's basically him giving out his business ideas and how to succeed at business and how to never say no to anyone and how you'll make it
Wait,
or fail.
wait. You said it's a novel. Is it a novel or
No,
is it
it's
like?
not necessarily a novel. It's more like an advice book.
Oh, okay.
It's like almost self-help, but he gives so many stories from his wrestling days to the point where it crosses the lines. So it can be both self-help and look at my life as a wrestler.
It sounds interesting, and I like Chris Jericho, and like I like that he has a significant life outside of wrestling as well. So I would definitely like to read his book.
Yeah, and it's funny too. So that's not bad. And then there's another novel. It's basically if anyone has ever read Dangerous Liaisons, it's the black version of Dangerous Liaisons, and it all takes place in Harlem. So I thought that concept was very interesting, and I like that idea. I like when you kind of remix novels that's already been turned into movies that's been remixed again into another novel. So it's the all black
Yeah,
version, and no one's like a drug dealer or anything bad. It's like it has a Harlem Renaissance feel to it.
that's cool.
So that's what I love. And then lastly is The Loving Husband, which
The Loving Husband.
is by it came out already. So it's by Christopher Noble Kent. It's basically how the husband is all lovely and supportive, and there is this wonderful marriage where nothing seems to be wrong, perfect things, and
Right.
comes to find out that a lot of things go down. A small little farmhouse, and they have a little baby, and all of a sudden, the husband is gone, and you don't know what happened to the husband, and the wife ends up becoming a suspect. So it's like, what
Interesting.
happened to the husband? Is he really loving? What did the wife do? And the police are somehow involved. So it's
Oh,
a
he was cheating,
psychology.
and he was
Yeah,
cheating, and she killed him.
it could be. Who knows? Or maybe he was too nice and he killed it. But it's basically kind of like they said if you like Gillian Flynn. So if you like Gone Girl, then this is a novel for you. But remember, they said if you like Girl on the Train, then The Couple Next Door is for you. But it's not. So I'm reading it, hoping that it's okay, but really hoping I don't end up burning a book.
Like, let's hope that doesn't happen. Um,
So
but
those are the
but
top
yeah,
three.
you've told me about some real interesting books today. I like that. I'm gonna have to definitely write down some of these and remember to check them out.
Yes.
But yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be reading throughout August. So I look forward to the next episode where we find out, how much we actually did read and what we thought of those books. But for now, that's episode 5 of the BookCast. We want to thank everyone who does listen to the show. We're still it's still this podcast is still new, so we're still working things out, we're still improving and everything. So let us know what you think of the show in the comments, or you can contact us directly. We're accessible on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, wherever it is, we're accessible. So definitely look us up. I'll link to all of our details in the post and on YouTube. But we want to thank everyone for listening, and definitely share with us what you're reading as well. Dana, do you have any final words before we end off?
No, keep reading, and as we previously discussed, find a book that you might not necessarily think you would like. Find a different genre. find an author you never heard of. If you read only female authors, pick up a man's book and read that.
Yeah, that's definitely real advice for a reader, you know, because that's something I learned early on as well, because I was never fussy about genre or anything. Like I just tended to read anything. Like if there was a book in front of me, I'd pick it up and read it, no matter what it was, or who wrote it, or what genre it was, or you know what it was called, what color it was. Like just read something that's out of your comfort zone and something that's different from what you're used to. And like a lot, most of the time, you'll be surprised, you know, and you'll find that you have different interests in, you know, different things. So yeah, you learn a lot about yourself when you read a broad number of books. So that's definitely good advice, I think. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
And don't knock honest porn.
I don't know about that. Yeah, you're gonna have to read some of this to me. You're gonna have to read a sample of this Amish porn book to me, and then I'll make my own decision. But yeah, on that note, we're getting out of here. So thanks for listening, people. See ya.